Look, staying healthy isn't easy. Watching your diet, hitting the gym, avoiding stress. But a good night's rest helps boost your overall health and wellness. And it couldn't be easier. The new Sleep Number 360 Smart Bed is the only bed that effortlessly adjusts and responds to both of you. The result? You wake up ready for anything. Proven quality sleep is life-changing sleep. And now, the new Queen Sleep Number 360 P5 Smart Bed is only $17.99. Save $600. Only for a limited time. To learn more, go to sleepnumber.com.
I think I've lost myself a little bit, and I don't really know I don't know what me is anymore, if that makes sense at all. But I feel a little bit of a lost soul almost. Like I'm not too sure what I am, what I want to be, and how to get to that end point where it might kind of make me feel more content as a person.
My name is Halina Rafai, and this is the A Sonic Hug podcast. Over the coming months and episodes, you will hear the voices of people from different walks of life who deal, experience, and battle mental health issues. In this podcast, I spoke to Paul about his mental health in later life. Paul and I have known each other for over 11 years now. He and his incredible wife Claire were even my bosses at one stage. Paul's a vibrant, talented and caring human. I felt this podcast was really important to do as it really shows how anxiety and poor mental health can make us question how we live our lives and lead us down our paths of uncertainty. This is Paul's story.
My name is Paul McCallum, and I run a small PR company called A Badge of Friendship. For me, it's mostly generally anxiety, like really mad anxiety, actually, to be honest with you, which appears to me to be getting worse as I get older, which is weird. But yeah, I think it's always been there, but it's something that's become more recognisable, I guess, as I've gotten older, really. For me, I'm very concerned about what other people think of me, I think. I kind of have this perception that I'm consistently doing or saying the wrong thing, which makes it very difficult to, particularly in the world that I probably work in, that makes it quite difficult because ultimately it seems like any situation you're in or any event you go to or any people you speak to, perhaps that you've done something wrong or you've not quite stepped up to the mark. I don't know. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself, I must say. Like I think I've got a lot of concerns, and it seems to be mostly in terms of what people think about me. And I'm not really sure why that's the case, but I think it's almost kind of prevented me from doing a lot of things that I probably want to do and want to achieve or want to aim for, because it almost precludes me from actually kind of like getting over the line and being able to kind of like do those things. The first thing I think is almost like, what will such and such think when you've never even had like too much contact with them? Or what will my pal think? Or what will my parents think? Or even doing this was quite a concern, because I kind of, my initial thought was, this will be brilliant, I'll do this, and maybe this is the time for me to actually kind of like get out and say something about, like generally be honest about my thoughts and feelings. But then I kind of went into myself a little bit and started thinking, it's almost like my brain's like a brand, like a tree, and it's like a bunch of branches, and it starts and gestates in one place. And I go, brilliant, I'm up for stuff and let's do it. Then I start thinking things like, well, why did Halina ask me? Maybe what if I say something stupid? What if I make an arse of myself? And what if my parents listen to this? And what if my friends listen to this? And will people think it's weird what I'm saying, or blah, 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 blah? I don't know, like it's a very convoluted maze that you seem to get yourself into. And I find it very difficult to kind of get out of that thought process, I must say. It's almost become a little bit more of a problem as time's gone on. Whereas when I was younger, I think I was a bit more as we say back home, gallus, and a bit more kind of like I didn't really care too much. But then also I think maybe that's rose-tinted spectacles, because when I look back, maybe I was always like this and it was always there. But it was just maybe that the exuberance of youth was actually making me a bit more fearless and kind of doing things. I've hit my 40s, I'm 41 now. It's kind of become a little bit more of like a ball and chain, almost like I'm very scared of a lot of things now, and I'm not entirely sure how to navigate that, and it's become more of a problem as time's gone on, really. I think I've lost myself a little bit, and I don't really know I don't know what me is anymore, if that makes sense at all. But I feel a little bit of a lost soul, almost like I'm not too sure what I am, what I want to be, and how to get to that end point where it might kind of make me feel more content as a person. Like every day is a bit of a chore. Like everything feels like you're waking up to get up, to do a job, to fill time, to get through to dinner, to fill time, to eat, to watch Netflix, to go to bed, to sleep, and kind of do it over again. And I'm not really sure. Maybe my expectations of life are wrong, I guess. Maybe I've got too many high expectations in terms of what you should be doing and what life is and what the meaning of life is. And I'm not too sure what it is from day to day that I'm actually doing that's actually meaningful, what will actually make a difference or make me feel better or make other people feel better. When I was younger, I thought, you had all these kind of like ideals, and maybe it's almost come to a point in a head where I've kind of got to a point and I'm just kind of like, well, I'm not sure what the actual end game is here. Like, I don't know what it is that I'm actually kind of trying to achieve. And I find that quite debilitating, I think. The problem is that life takes you down a certain path and you find yourself in certain situations and circumstances. And I think we go with it because ultimately, you've got to make money and you've got to pay the bills and you've got to kind of maintain your lifestyle. And in my case, moving to London when I was maybe 22, I think, I kind of you find your kind of your thing, and my thing seemed to be a badge of friendship, I guess. I wanted to work in music, but I wanted to be more creative. I used to take photographs, and I stopped doing that. Despite the fact that I think I was reasonably good at it, but then I kind of almost told myself and convinced myself that that I wasn't that good at it, and that unless I was going to be something big or like a proper photographer or a ranking or some shit like that or whatever, then there's no point doing this. Like, they're just like, are you going to make it? No, let's just kind of tank that off. And so me, in the sense that having done a photography exhibition in East London, I then kind of like just went, I'm not going to pick up a camera now for the next 10 years or so, which I didn't do for no real reason. Like, just, it's almost like, well, I'm not going to do that, so fuck that off, and we'll just leave that and park that there, and we'll move on to this kind of thing. And then you start getting success in the kind of like job that you're doing, and it's not a bad thing. Like, I've had some great times doing what I do, met some great people, worked with amazing bands and artists, and great people that have worked for us and with us. But maybe that was more of a kind of an extension of like trying to be ingratiated into the music industry rather than actually maybe doing what you really truly wanted to do. Almost like so we kind of get to this point when you hit this point now that you're 41, I guess, and you start looking at things in a different way. And I look at things in kind of almost absolutes, and I start thinking, well, I've wasted loads of time. I've not done A, B, or C. I'm 41 now. 9 years' time, we'll be 50, and then I'll be too old, and then that's it. And I'm on the walk to death now, and that's basically, I'm kind of almost looking at it in a very kind of like horrible downbeat way, where I'm kind of like, that's it, time's up. I'm very worried that the time is of the essence, but I'm also precluded by the fact that I'm still worried about if I kind of make a shift and pivot onto something else that people are going to go, what the fuck is he doing that for? Those kind of hurdles have become not just hurdles, but actually mountains to almost like climb over, because I've almost given myself these barriers that make it so difficult to do something like that I feel is worthy, not just for other people, but maybe for myself. But I can't get out of that headspace, because ultimately it's easier to make those excuses than take the leap. I kind of first started to realise that maybe I suffered from anxiety. It was actually later. It's maybe the last sort of 10 years. I think there's always been a kind of sense of control with myself. So therefore, I never really let myself go. And when I do let myself go, I feel guilty for letting myself go. And I think that goes back to when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, I was quite fighty, and I was quite kind of like, I would go, my first thing would be, all right, you've said something about me, I'm going to fucking smack you type thing. I'm not a particularly violent person, but I kind of look back as a kid and I think, yeah, that was control in terms of what people thought about you. So I was almost trying to kind of like from the get-go, kind of almost kind of go, well, if you're going to say something bad about me, or if you're going to kind of like slag me off or whatever, then I'm going to do this because it will probably prevent other people from kind of saying that or saying something about me and blah, 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 blah. So it's a real control kind of issue. And then as I kind of went through school, 12, 13, I kind of started to go in myself a little bit more, and maybe wasn't so much like that, because I recognised that kind of behaviour was just inherently wrong. And I just didn't like kind of being like that as a person, really. I think particularly in the last few years, I recognise it far more now, which is it's a good thing. But there are days where I guess I wake up and for no particular reason, I could go to bed in a particularly great mood, and I could wake up and just think, nah, not feeling it, not up for this, don't want to do it, don't want to do work, don't want to do anything, don't want to see anything or anyone. And I've kind of gotten into kind of a little bit of kind of like time now where I quite like kind of like maybe going for a walk, and I kind of like silence now, like weirdly enough, like I just kind of like no noise and just feeling like the static is being removed from oneself, I guess. Sometimes you just have this feeling where there's a blackness in front of your eyes, where your eyes feel really heavy, and it just feels like doing anything feels like a chore. And I mean anything like making tea, or having to do like basic tasks and all that kind of stuff. And I still do them, because ultimately we're adults and we need to get on with life and you need to do stuff. But I've recognised now that there are days where I just won't. I have the fear, and I'm just like, I cannot look at my emails. Like I just do not want, particularly working in PR, where there's such a high level of expectation, and every person that you work with and client that you work with has an expectation that you are going to do, great things for them and all this kind of stuff. And ultimately, I'm pretty good at my job, but at the same time, it doesn't always happen. And I feel that there's a real weight that kind of like you carry on your shoulders, because I take it personally if I don't do what I'm meant to do, and it doesn't work out the way it's meant to work out. But there are moments where I've just kind of like gone, and I now just take days, and particularly if it's sunny outside, even if like in the winter now, I'll go for a good old walk, and I need to just have that moment where I kind of go, I'm not going to look at my emails, I'm just going to have some time for myself. I need to iron things out, and almost like it feels like like if it's a rope, like imagine if the rope is completely like entwined and it's all a mess, and it's almost like your brain just needs to untangle that rope and just make it a little bit more straight, so that you kind of think in a way that kind of is coherent and good for yourself as well. Because ultimately, if I kind of sort myself out in that sense, then it's probably going to be better for everyone as well, whether it be work sense or home sense or family sense or friends. And I've actually felt a bit guilty in the last few years, because there's a lot of times where my friends or my family like phone me, and sometimes I just ignore calls because I'm just like, I just can't face talking to people on that particular day. And I feel kind of bad because ultimately you're like, that person's reaching out, not because they think there's anything wrong, but just because they're probably just saying, want to say hello or whatever. I've kind of got to a point where I'm just like, sometimes I just need to remove oneself from life to a certain extent. I think there's a stoic kind of element of my character that you don't want to show insecurities and perhaps let that glimpse of emotion. It's almost like the Wizard of Oz. Like you don't want people to see behind the curtain because ultimately it's not the done thing. I guess that's and I don't know why I would think that, but I often don't want to show emotion or show people that I'm upset or kind of. I don't. It's more so that I don't want to put it on other people, and therefore I feel it more so that I kind of wanted to keep it to myself. It's not so much a male masculinity thing, and I've never really felt that. Actually, most blokes like that I've been around, I'll end up probably telling to fuck off. To be honest with you, it's not really my vibe, I would say, and I've never really had that pressure. So I'm not too sure where the kind of subconscious element of not wanting to give a glimpse of emotion has come from, apart from perhaps maybe it's a generational thing perhaps instead. All you need to do is look at Twitter and any social media and you'll have a whole bunch of probably over 50 white males telling anyone who's under the age of 25 that, to grow up and to, stop being a snowflake and all that kind of shite patter, to be honest with you. And that probably says more about the society that they've been born into and actually a fear, because I think there's a lot of fear that's involved with that kind of behaviour because they don't want things to change because they're used to a hierarchy that they have been thrown into and they like that hierarchy. So when things start to change that they don't understand, it's easier to turn around and blame snowflakes or youngsters or as you saw from the other, like there's been stuff trending in the last few days about Harry Styles wearing a dress and all this kind of stuff, about masculine behaviour being kind of downgraded so that, we kind of change what we are meant to believe what a man is. What the fuck is a man? What the fuck does that mean? Like, I just don't buy into these kind of concepts. But I think that that's more to do with the way in which these people, A, have been brought up, the time they've been brought up, their age, and a fear of change. Because ultimately, a sea change means that they are obsolete. A sea change means that they are not as prevalent and important as they think they are. But I think that's always been the case. I've only ever really told my wife, I guess, about this. I've never spoken to anyone in a professional capacity, and I've never really spoken to my friends about it, and I've never really spoken to my parents about it. Although I don't think anyone would be that surprised if they listen to this, to be honest with you. I think it's kind of like fairly obvious. But this is the first time that I've been as candid about these thoughts and feelings. I'm not even sure if this is coming out in any kind of coherent way, to be honest with you, because ultimately it feels like I'm kind of saying all these things kind of off the cuff because I've not really thought about it too much. I've never really thought about having this type of conversation, which I guess was probably why I was kind of concerned about doing it in the first place, because I was like, God, what the fuck am I going to say? Like, I could say anything and it could be terrible. I'm not against anyone speaking to anyone. Like, I've thought about it many, many times. But for some reason, I've just never got round to it because I always think, oh, no, I'll be fine. I'll sort myself out. I've always sorted myself out, so it'll be okay. Don't worry about it, Paul, blah, 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 blah. Life gets in the way and there's always excuses. And I think my life's been a lot of the stuff that kind of prevents me from doing stuff. There's always an excuse. There's always an excuse to not do something. There's always a hurdle. There's always something to be done. There's always a reason to kind of get round to it. And ultimately, I've probably chosen not to do it. And it's not because I'm fearful of what might be exposed or what might come out or what I might start to understand about myself. I think I understand myself reasonably well, to be honest with you. I just think it needs to be the right time. And it seems like with me, I kind of get round to things a little bit later than other people. And I'll probably get there at some point, but it'll have to be, it feels like the sweet spot where it just has to be the right time, the right place, and when it's right for myself, ultimately. If someone offered me something tomorrow, it wouldn't be anything wild. It wouldn't be something like money. I just want to be content. I just want to be I just want to feel fairly content from day to day. And even if that means doing something kind of fairly like a menial task or something grand. I've not told anyone this apart from a couple of friends and my parents, basically. But this is probably what I do. Last year, about a year and a half ago, we were in Los Angeles for work. I've always had a massive interest in comedy, and a lot of people probably go, "God, there's no way that Paul could fucking do this." But when I was there in Los Angeles, I could see there's a place called the Groundlings, and the Groundlings is a improv kind of theatre / school, and basically it's a place where people like Will Ferrell, Kristen Wiig, Will Forte, Caitlin Olsen from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and all that kind of stuff. Basically, they all kind of like, that's where they started out and where they basically went on to do stuff and all that kind of shit. But basically, there was they were holding auditions to get into the school while I was there. And I stupidly said to Claire, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to fucking do this. Because I've got a feeling that this is the kind of thing that I would love to do. And despite having never done it before, I believe that it's something that I could do. And so I basically went to the fucking thing and rocked up. And you had to get you had to have like a CV with what you've done. I've done fuck all in that sense for a start. And you had to get your kind of a proper like, kind of like actors promo shot kind of and all that kind of stuff. So I had all that shit sorted and stuff like that. This is ridiculous. And so I went along and it was there was like 20, 25 people there. And they were all like you sit in a circle. It was all this bullshit where you kind of like sit in a circle and going around and you realise, and I'm like, oh my God, all these people are proper like actors and stuff like that. So it's like some guys going, I was in CSI and blah, blah, blah. And I've done like this comedy thing and this and this. And it kind of got to me and I was like, hi, my name's Paul McCallum. I'm from Scotland, as you can probably tell. And I've never done anything like this. So I'm really sorry if I fuck up your day. And they kind of went, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the most embarrassing thing I've ever done. And I don't know what, and I almost wanted to just like do a runner, but I did it and it was proper like whose line is it anyway, made up shit, just like off the cuff, like you and Craig are kind of like doing up a house and go and like just like this is what happens and go for it kind of thing. But I fucking loved it. So I came out, I had like Claire had her Marvel backpack and you had to have like a backpack and stuff to take notes and all that sort of stuff. And I came out bounding out like a wee boy into Melrose, into the fucking LA sun. And I was literally skipping down the street. And that was the last time, but I genuinely felt for the first time in a long time, and that was the last time I did as well, so alive. I was like, this is life, man. Like, I feel like I'm flying by the seat of my pants. I've done something, whether it goes well or not, I don't give a fuck. The next day I got an email and I get fucking in. I get into the fucking groundling school and I was like, right, well, I can't do anything with this because we're going home next week. And I was like, and then it kind of like, it's developed into this thing and I'm just like, oh, well, I can never do that now because there's no chance that we're going to move to LA now that the pandemic's on and that's that. So that's another hurdle. And I'm just like, well, that's fucked now. I would say to my 10-year-old self, well, I guess this is the whole point of the whole show and the whole podcast ultimately. And I think I've said this so many times now, is that I'm so concerned and worried about what other people think. And I'd probably say to my 10-year-old self, do not give a fuck about what anyone else thinks. Life is very short. We get one bloody shot at it. And I think that there's so many things and so many barriers that are put in front of us, both in a kind of societal sense, but also in mostly from ourselves. And I would say to the wee man that you just need to get on with it and do not bother about what anyone else thinks, because ultimately life is short, and go for it.
Remember more, improve your focus, and multitask better. Hum is a brain sharpener that helps you do all three. Hum's wearable boosts your working memory and will be available in late 2021. Sign up to be notified when Hum launches and to learn more about the science behind Hum at thinkhum.com. That's thinkhum.com. Hum is designed for healthy adults and should not be used if you're pregnant, have cognitive impairment, implanted devices, or a history of seizures. The Hum patch is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. To learn more, go to thinkhum.com.
Look, staying healthy isn't easy. Watching your diet, hitting the gym, avoiding stress. But a good night's rest helps boost your overall health and wellness. And it couldn't be easier. The new Sleep Number 360 Smart Bed is the only bed that effortlessly adjusts and responds to both of you. The result? You wake up ready for anything. Proven quality sleep is life-changing sleep. And now, the new Queen Sleep Number 360 P5 Smart Bed is only $17.99. Save $600. Only for a limited time. To learn more, go to sleepnumber.com.
That was Paul's story. Paul and I have confided in each other a few times about how poor our mental health is, and it particularly saddens me to hear him talking about feeling like a lost soul. But I know that feeling so well. Anxiety means different things to different people, and it manifests in ever-changing ways. When Paul talks about his brain feeling like a tree and branching off in different directions, this is something that a lot of people relate to. The darting thoughts, 1 minute having a strong idea of what you want and self-belief, and then that flipping sometimes instantly. The self-doubt, the spaghetti thoughts which dominate your daily world. This is one of the hardest things when coping with anxiety. Paul predominantly talks about worrying what other people think. This has been another strong theme throughout this podcast, and one which generally stems from something that's happened to trigger it based on other accounts. The source of this might be unclear when it comes to Paul, but it feels as if the pressure he places on himself is monumental. It's an all or nothing thing that he applies to himself, and it's obvious why those feelings become apparent. When he talks about his comedy audition, you can feel yourself smiling as he radiates sheer joy when replaying it. That exuberance makes you want him to realise that these are the feelings he should be experiencing more often in life. That strength of happiness, that realisation of what it is you want from your life, those explosive emotions of adrenaline and that overall sense of satisfaction. Paul deserves to have those feelings last longer and become more frequent. The way he shuts them down and doesn't see a strong path ahead for them and indeed him to flourish fills me with sadness. When Paul talks about not showing emotion, and part of the reason for this is not, as he says, wanting to put anyone out. This is one of the biggest problems when it comes to us as a society speaking about mental health. The shame that surrounds it, the belief that we don't want to burden others as we feel they may not understand, or we don't want to add to their problems. But they may share those same problems. They may feel relief that they are not alone. That immediate relief of being able to offload is a key factor for all of us. We cannot continue to conceal and build these feelings within us. I guess I really want Paul to understand that I identify from our conversation that he contradicts himself, and whilst he may say he is coping, I feel that he has a lot more that he needs to talk about. But as he says, when he is ready to do so, he will. The pressure Paul puts on himself is apparent, and his profession of publicising others is one of the hardest within the media industries. Having worked in this field, and indeed with Paul, the sheer weight of expectation that this carries is immeasurable. There's a fear you won't be able to deliver, that you will let people down, and it's those feelings which are incredibly difficult for humans. We want to do our best by people, we want to make them happy. It's a natural instinct, but at what cost to our mental health? It's encouraging that Paul has identified that walking is helpful, a means to clear his head, to unravel his thoughts and just breathe. I've said this many times in writing and in conversation, but never on these podcasts, but I think it applies particularly to Paul and his story. As humans, we were not born on this earth to be constricted. The complexities around our makeup, our emotions, and the environments we live in are meant to be explored. We deserve to fully live the best parts of all of those. We shouldn't be worrying about agendas, targets, income, bills, the pressure of success and more. We should be able to sit, to watch, to laugh, to cry, to love. Our world is a phenomenal place. The mountains, the oceans, the landscapes, they are there for us to experience. The creativity in this world is here for us to fully consume. And what makes us happy? Music, comedy, film, all the creativity we sometimes take for granted. And it's within that realm that Paul has shown such happiness. So I would ask him to fully take this in and understand that he deserved to experience all of this and be happy within it. I and many others have a belief in him. I would ask that his want and kindness for others is applied to himself. As he says, you get one shot at this life, and I hope that he puts himself centre stage for the rest of his road ahead. If you have experienced or experiencing anything described in this episode, you will find support information in the text with this podcast. A Sonic Hug podcast is recorded, produced and edited by me, Halina Rafai. We are also part of Scotland's podcasting network, The Big Light. Until next time, deep breaths.
Look, staying healthy isn't easy. Watching your diet, hitting the gym, avoiding stress. But a good night's rest helps boost your overall health and wellness. And it couldn't be easier. The new Sleep Number 360 Smart Bed is the only bed that effortlessly adjusts and responds to both of you. The result? You wake up ready for anything. Proven quality sleep is life-changing sleep. And now, the new Queen Sleep Number 360 P5 Smart Bed is only $17.99. Save $600. Only for a limited time. To learn more, go to sleepnumber.com.